My husband told me to stay home while he took his client to Hawaii. He didn't know I would be waiting for him at the check-in desk. The suitcase sat open on our kitchen table, right where we usually ate breakfast. Silk shirts folded tight. Expensive sunscreen lined up like soldiers. My husband, David, moved fast, nervous, like the house might accuse him if he slowed down. He kept talking without looking at me. "It's a big closing, Regina. High stakes. Investors only," he said. "You'd be bored. Stay home. Relax. Maybe clean out the garage." 5 years of marriage, and he still said my name like a task. I nodded, because that was what I did now. Support. Smile. Shrink. He zipped the suitcase and kissed my cheek, already half gone. As he walked out, his iPad lit up on the counter. A message preview flashed bright and careless. "Can't wait to feel the Maui sun on my skin, and your hands on my waist. Kiki." My chest went cold. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I picked up the iPad and stared at the name. Kiki. If you want to know how this ends, hit subscribe for more revenge stories. I sat at the kitchen table long after the front door shut. The house felt too quiet, like it was holding its breath with me. I opened our joint bank app, my fingers steady even though my hands felt numb. There it was. $15,000. Labeled corporate retreat. I laughed once. Short. Sharp. Then I dug deeper. David always thought I stopped paying attention to money when I quit my job. He was wrong. I followed the trail through linked cards and hidden charges until I found it. A first-class ticket. 1 seat. Not mine. Passenger name, Ms. Kiki Vance. My stomach flipped, but my mind cleared. This wasn't sloppy. This was planned. I opened my laptop and booked a flight on a different airline. First class. It landed 2 hours before his. As the confirmation email came in, I imagined his face at the airport. He thought I was staying home. He had no idea where I was going. And he definitely didn't know where I'd be waiting. On the drive to the airport, I remembered the woman I used to be. Before I became the anchor. That was David's favorite word for me. Solid. Heavy. Easy to ignore. 5 years earlier, I had given up my career as a high-end travel consultant. I knew flights, hotels, private lounges. I knew how power moved quietly through places meant to look relaxing. I stepped away so David could shine. He called me his support system. Then he treated me like dead weight. I pulled over once, hands shaking, then reached into the safe under the passenger seat. Inside was my old black diamond industry pass. Still valid. Still powerful. David thought I couldn't tell the difference between business and betrayal. I slid the pass into my purse and smiled for the first time in days. This trip wasn't about catching him. It was about reminding him who he married. And what happens when you mistake silence for weakness. Maui air hit my skin like freedom. Warm. Bright. Unapologetic. I wasn't wearing the clothes David liked to call practical. I wore a sundress that moved when I walked and a wide-brimmed hat that hid my eyes. Oversized Gucci sunglasses finished the job. I walked straight to VIP check-in at the Grand Wailea. No hesitation. No nerves. The manager looked up, blinked, then smiled wide. "Regina." "Hi, Mark," I said. "I need a favor." We spoke quietly. Efficiently. Old habits. Old power. "I need the room next to David Miller's," I said. "And I need the balcony divider removed." Mark didn't ask questions. He never had. As I took my key card, my phone buzzed. David's flight had landed. I went to the lobby bar, ordered a Mai Tai, and faced the sliding doors. I wasn't chasing him anymore. I was waiting. Time slowed in the lobby, every second stretching thin. I watched couples pass, laughing, touching, free in ways I hadn't been in years. Then I saw him. David walked in like a mun on vacation, not a mun with secrets. His arm was around a young woman in a bikini top and sheer wrap. She leaned into him like she belonged there. "Kiki." They laughed, heads close, bodies easy. He looked lighter than he had in years. That hurt more than I expected. I stood and walked to the check-in desk before they noticed me. My back was to them. Calm. Controlled. I heard his voice. "Miller. 4-2. I turned slowly and slid my sunglasses down. "Actually," I said, smiling sweetly, "make that 3. I forgot my key, honey." David's briefcase hit the floor. Kiki gasped and grabbed his arm. And in that moment, standing under the hotel lights, I saw panic replace confidence. This was only the beginning. David's mouth opened, then closed, like his brain was buffering. "Regina, what are you doing here?" he asked, voice cracking. I leaned against the counter like I belonged there.
"Because I did. Checking in," I said.
"Same as you." The clerk glanced between us, confused. Kiki's grip tightened on David's arm. Up close, she looked younger than I'd thought. Nervous eyes. Glossed lips. A temporary tattoo peeked from her ankle. "Regina, this is Kiki," David rushed. "She's the junior analyst. For the account." I tilted my head. "An analyst?" I smiled at her. "Wonderful. You must be exhausted from all the spreadsheets."
Kiki blinked. What?"
I handed the clerk my ID. "We'll need 3 keys." David whispered my name like a warning. I ignored it. The clerk typed, smiling politely. David had lied so smoothly for so long. Now he was watching it collapse in public. We stood there too long, the silence thick and sticky. Kiki looked from my dress to David's face, then back to me. "You didn't say you were married," she whispered. David laughed too loudly. "Regina, you're misunderstanding, am I?" I asked gently. "Because I understand numbers very well." I pointed at Kiki's ankle. The tattoo read property of David. Her face drained of color. "You said that was a joke," she said to him. David swallowed hard. "It was just fun. Don't make this weird." I stepped closer. "You flew her first class. You booked her under your personal card. That's not a joke. That's a plan." The clerk cleared her throat. "Ms. Miller, your suite is ready." I took the key without looking away from David. Kiki pulled her arm free. "What is happening?" she asked. I smiled again. "Dinner," I said. "We're all going to talk." David looked trapped. "Good." Dinner was quiet at first. Too quiet. We sat at a white table overlooking the ocean, candlelight flickering like it was nervous too. I ordered the most expensive champagne on the menu without asking. "Company card, right?" I said, smiling at David. He nodded stiffly. I turned to Kiki. "So tell me about your work," I said. "How do you handle market volatility?" She froze. I'm more creative," she said. "Of course," I replied. "And dividends? Asset liquidation?" Her eyes filled fast. "I don't know what that means." David slammed his napkin down. "Enough, Regina." Kiki started crying, mascara streaking. "You told me you were divorced," she said. "You said she didn't care." I sipped my drink. "I cared enough to follow you here." David looked around, embarrassed, exposed. The waiter returned with the bill. David flinched at the total. I smiled wider. This meal was just the appetizer. While they argued in low, panicked voices, I excused myself. I walked calmly to the front desk like I was heading to the restroom. Mark was waiting. "It's time," I said. Within minutes, hotel staff moved with quiet speed. David's luggage disappeared from the suite he booked. Mine was upgraded. The presidential suite overlooked the water like it was judging the beach below. I placed a single note on the small bed in his new room near the laundry machines. "Work hard. Play hard." When I returned to the table, David was sweating. "Where did you go?" "I handled logistics," I said. Kiki stood abruptly. "I need air." She walked off alone. David reached for my hand. I pulled it back. "We need to talk," he said. "We are," I replied. "Just not how you planned." His phone buzzed. Decline charge. I watched his face fall. The game had changed rooms. It was after midnight when David knocked on my suite door. I hadn't invited him. I hadn't blocked him either. "I made a mistake," he said the second I opened it. His voice was soft now. Familiar. Dangerous. He stepped inside, smelling like her perfume and cheap regret. "She means nothing." "I was lonely. You were always busy." He tried to touch me, hands reaching like they still had rights. I pushed him back. Hard. "I'm not the client, David," I said. "And you're out of credit." He stared at me, stunned. "You're enjoying this?" "No," I said. "I'm remembering who I was." His phone buzzed again. Another alert. Another problem. I closed the door in his face and locked it. On the balcony, the ocean roared. Tomorrow, I would show him how loud truth could be. I woke early, before the sun finished climbing. Maui looked innocent in the morning, like it didn't know what secrets it had hosted. I took a photo on the balcony. David beside me from an old picture, cropped just right. Kiki appeared in the background, blurry, half-dressed, holding a drink. I posted it to David's company LinkedIn page. Caption, family vacation before a big close. Feeling grateful. I set my phone down and waited. It didn't take long. Comments started rolling in. Congratulations.
Questions.
Confusion. Then his boss commented. Who is the woman in the bikini, David? This was approved as a solo research trip. I smiled and ordered room service. Down the hall, I heard shouting. A door slammed. David started pounding on my door minutes later. Take it down, he yelled. I didn't answer. I just refreshed the page and watched his professional life crack in real time. David's phone rang nonstop. He paced the hallway like a trapped animal, voice rising, words sharp and panicked. You're ruining my life, he screamed when he finally got through my door. I stayed seated, calm.
No, I said.
You did that when you brought your analyst on a work trip. Kiki stood behind him, pale and shaking. She finally understood she wasn't special.
Just convenient.
My boss wants answers, David snapped. This was supposed to be private. Nothing paid with company money is private, I replied.
Kiki's eyes widened. Company money? She asked. David froze.
I stood. He told you he was rich, didn't he?
She nodded slowly.
I leaned closer. He's about to be fired. Her grip on his arm loosened. The silence between them was louder than any fight. And for the first time, David looked truly alone. While David begged his boss for time, I took his corporate card from the desk. The one he gave me for emergencies. This felt like one. I spent the afternoon in Lahaina, moving from boutique to boutique.
Dresses. Jewelry.
Leather goods. Thoughtful gifts. Each receipt felt lighter than the last. I bought something for every board member's wife.
Personalized.
Elegant. Impossible to ignore. Back at the hotel, I scanned the receipts and emailed them to his office account. Subject line, bonus distributions. I imagined the finance team opening it. The questions. The meetings. David burst into the suite as I hit send. What did you do? I smiled. Redistributed assets. His face twisted in fear. Outside, the sun dipped low, turning the ocean red. I watched it set like a countdown. Tomorrow, the masks would fall completely. I found Kiki at the pool bar that evening, staring into a drink she hadn't touched. I sat beside her like we were old friends. He told you he was a millionaire, I said calmly. She nodded. He said he owned everything. He's $200,000 in debt, I said. And I own the house. Her eyes went wide. I slid my phone across the bar. You want out? Help yourself. She hesitated, then unlocked her phone and handed it to me. Videos. Messages. David ranting about his nagging, ugly wife. Promising divorce after his bonus hit. Laughing. My chest burned, but my hand stayed steady. Send these to my lawyer, I said. She nodded fast. As I walked away, my phone buzzed. My lawyer replied with one line. This changes everything. If you want to see how far this goes, hit subscribe for more revenge stories. David came back to the suite late, face gray, eyes wild. Kiki's gone, he said. I didn't answer. She packed her things, he whispered. She said she needed space. I closed my laptop slowly. She needed truth. He sank onto the edge of the bed. I don't know how this got so bad. You planned it, I said. You just didn't plan for me. There was a knock at the door. Hotel security. Sir, the guard said, your corporate card has been flagged for suspicious activity. David looked at me, desperate. You did this. No, I replied. Your choices did. The guard waited. David stood, shaking. As the door closed behind them, I felt something settle inside me. This wasn't anger anymore. It was control. David returned the next morning looking like he hadn't slept. His shirt was wrinkled. His confidence was gone. She left, he said again, like saying it twice might change it. She's staying with some sufferer she met at the bar. I didn't react. I was packing my things instead. You can't just abandon me here, he snapped. I looked up. You abandoned me first. There was a knock. The front desk manager stood there with a tablet. Mr. Miller, your stay has been adjusted. Due to payment issues, you'll need to vacate the suite immediately. David's face twisted. Payment issues? The corporate card is frozen, the manager said politely.
David turned to me, eyes wide. Fix this.
I zipped my bag. You're not my responsibility anymore. As I walked past him, I felt light. He followed me into the hall, begging, angry, lost. For the first time, Maui wasn't paradise for him. It was a dead end.
I flew home first class.
Champagne before takeoff. Silence when I wanted it. David didn't. I booked him a ticket on a budget airline.
Last row.
3 layovers.
Seat by the bathroom.
At the hotel bar, I left his passport under a coaster. I knew they'd find it eventually.
Just not fast.
As my plane lifted off, I imagined him running through terminals, sweat-stained and panicked, realizing how small the world feels when you've burned your bridges. When I landed, I didn't go home. I went straight to a storage company. Movers were already scheduled. By the time David touched down, exhausted and angry, our house was empty. Not we're moving empty.
Gone empty.
Light fixtures removed. Closets bare. Echoes only. In the yard stood a clean white sign. For sale. The marriage had ended somewhere over the Pacific. This was just the proof. David showed up at the house just as the sun set.
I watched from my car down the street.
He tried the door.
Then the windows. Panic set in fast. His phone rang. Voicemail. Mine.
I didn't answer. Inside, there was nothing left but dust and footsteps.
No couch.
No photos.
No bed.
He sat on the porch steps, head in his hands. The next morning, he went to his office to explain everything. His keycard didn't work. Security walked him out with a cardboard box.
Pens.
A framed award. A mug that read World's Best Boss. As he passed the CEO's glass office, he saw me inside.
Seated. Calm. Waiting. He stopped. Our eyes met. He knew then. This wasn't chaos. This was design. The board meeting was short. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I laid out documents. Shares. Transfers. Trust filings. David stared like the floor was moving. My inheritance, I said simply. I use my free time wisely. The CEO nodded. Regina is now the majority stakeholder. David stood. This is my company. I looked at him. It was. Security stepped closer. As he was escorted out, I followed. You can't do this, he said, voice cracking. I didn't, I replied. You did. I just finished it. I handed him one final paper. A lease agreement. I'm your landlord now, I said. His knees buckled slightly. Power doesn't shout. It settles. The lawyer explained it cleanly. Too clean. Because David used corporate funds on a mistress, it counted as embezzlement. Jail was possible. So were fines. So was nothing, if he agreed. I offered a deal. No contest divorce, I said. You walk away quietly. I don't press charges. He stared at the paper like it was poison. You're trapping me, he whispered. No, I said. You trapped yourself. His hand shook as he signed. Outside, reporters were already waiting. The story had leaked. Photos. Videos. Maui. David pulled his jacket tight, trying to hide. He couldn't. This wasn't the end. It was the moment before the fall. The divorce moved fast after that. David didn't fight. He couldn't afford to. The embezzlement clause sat heavy between us like a loaded weapon. One wrong move and everything collapsed on him. He tried to call me late one night. I didn't answer. Instead, my lawyer handled it. Assets split clean. No drama. No court show. Just signatures and consequences. David walked out with almost nothing. Not because I demanded it, but because he'd already spent his future. When the papers were final, I felt lighter than I had in years. Not happy. Clear. I didn't celebrate. I prepared. Because justice isn't loud. It's patient. And the real reckoning hadn't even started yet. David thought the worst was over. He was wrong. I hosted the Freedom Party 3 weeks later. I invited everyone. Friends. Family. Co-workers. Board members. Wives. David wasn't invited. He showed up anyway. I didn't stop him. Midway through the night,
I tapped my glass and smiled. I want to thank everyone for supporting me, I said. Then I pressed play. The videos filled the wall. David's voice. His insults. His promises to cheat. The room went silent. His mother stood up first. Then his father. They walked out without a word. David tried to speak. No one listened. When he finally left, he looked smaller than I remembered. Reputation isn't something you can pack in a suitcase. Once it's gone, it's gone. David tried staying with friends. One couch after another. Each time, it ended the same way. The wives had seen the videos. The photos. The headlines. No one wanted him. I heard through the grapevine that he slept in his car some nights. The one he still owed money on. He called me once. I just need a little help, he said. I hung up. Survival teaches you quickly who deserves access to your life. David had spent years draining mine. I was done refilling him. Meanwhile, I slept peacefully. Ate well. Worked harder than ever. The world felt bigger without him in it. And I was only getting started. I booked another trip to Hawaii. This time, I brought my parents and my best friend. Same hotel. Same suite. We laughed. Swam. Ate too much. One morning, by the pool, I saw a man scrubbing tiles. His back was hunched. His hair thinner. For a second, I thought it was David. It wasn't. But the thought didn't hurt anymore. That was when I knew I was ready. Ready for the final step. Ready to stop reacting and start collecting. Because what comes after betrayal isn't rage. It's leverage. The wage garnishment began quietly. No announcement. No warning. Because of the embezzlement clause, 80% of any income David earned came directly to me. For 10 years. I hired a private agency to track everything. Every job. Every check. Every tip. David worked 3 jobs. Still broke. Every deposit sent me a notification. Justice doesn't rush. It repeats. 26. The court records went public on a Tuesday morning. I didn't leak them. I simply stopped protecting David from the truth. By noon, his name was everywhere. Headlines. Blogs. Screenshots shared without mercy. CEO wife dumps embezzling husband in Maui. People read it on their lunch breaks. People whispered it in offices. David became a warning, not a mun. Interviews dried up fast. Job offers vanished. Even places that didn't care about morals cared about headlines. That night, my phone rang. I just need a small loan, David said quietly. I haven't eaten. I opened my email, copied a link, and sent it to him. A local food bank. This is cruel, he said. No, I replied. This is reality. He hung up. For the first time, hunger taught him something honesty never had. Kiki called me late one afternoon. Her voice sounded flat, like life had finally caught up. The suffer left, she said. I need work. I didn't answer right away. I remembered the tattoo. The lies. The way she clung to David like he was a prize. Then I made a decision. I hired her. As my dog walker. She showed up every morning, professional, quiet, eyes down. One afternoon, I saw David across the park. His jacket was worn thin. His shoes were cracked. He stopped when he saw her. Kiki didn't look at him. She bent down, tied the bag, and cleaned up after my dog. David stood frozen, watching. Karma didn't scream. It crouched low, right in front of him, and stayed. David tried renting a basement apartment on the edge of town. The landlord asked for a guarantor. David had no one left. He called me. I'll help, I said. Hope lit his face when we met. It died when I slid the paper across the table. He had to sign a statement. That he cheated. That he lied. That he was the boring one. His hand shook as he read it. If I don't sign, he asked. Then you sleep in your car, I said calmly. He signed. Shelter always costs pride first. As I walked away, I realized something important. Power isn't loud. It's quiet, and it waits until you need mercy. I posted the check-in video one quiet morning. No caption. No explanation. The internet did the rest. 20 million views in a week. They named him the Maui loser. Memes followed him everywhere. Teenagers laughed when they recognized him at a gas station. Someone filmed it. That video went viral too. David stopped looking up when he walked. He shrank inside himself. The world had decided who he was. And it wasn't kind. Fame and shame share the same door. David walked through it without armor. Every laugh, every whisper, every replay reminded him of one truth. He hadn't lost me. He had exposed himself. I launched my new travel agency 6 months later. The Faithful Traveler. It exploded faster than I expected. Billboards went up. My face smiled back at me from glass and steel. Behind the ads was his story. Blurred. Muted. A warning of what not to do. Clients trusted me because I knew betrayal firsthand. David applied once under a fake name. My assistant recognized him immediately. I didn't need revenge anymore. I had rebuilt something stronger. While he hid from his past, I built my future in full view. And I wasn't finished yet. 1 year after Maui, a card arrived at my office. The envelope was bent, like it had been handled too many times. Inside, David had written happy anniversary. He said he had changed. He said losing everything had taught him who he really was. He said he was staying at a shelter and trying to rebuild. I read it once. Then again. I took a single dollar from my wallet and slid it inside the card. I wrote one line across the bottom. Buy a clue. I mailed it back without hesitation. People think forgiveness means reopening doors. Sometimes it means locking them properly. That night, I slept deeply. David had marked the date because he was stuck in the past. I wasn't. The calendar had already moved on without him. And soon, so would everyone else. The auction hall smelled like old leather and dust. David's collection sat on display like trophies from a life he no longer owned. Watches. Jerseys. Memorabilia he once called investments. I invited him to attend. He stood in the back, hands shaking, as the bidding began. Item after item sold for pennies. The final piece was his pride. A restored '69 Mustang. He had always said it was priceless. The bidding stalled at $50. Sold. David closed his eyes. Every dollar went to charity. Applause filled a room. None of it was for him. Some losses don't hurt because of money. They hurt because they expose how little value was there to begin with. David tried starting over under a fake name. A small consulting business. New email. New logo. Same lies. I bought the domain the day it launched. Anyone who clicked it landed on a page titled How to Spot a Cheater. Examples. Red flags. Maui photos blurred just enough. His first potential client called me instead. I think your site redirected me, the man said. It did, I replied calmly. David's messages came fast after that. Angry. Desperate. Threatening. I blocked every number. Reinvention doesn't work when the truth owns your shadow. David kept running. The internet kept pointing back to him. Some mistakes don't fade. They follow. David showed up at my gate during a storm. Rain soaked him through. His hair stuck flat against his face. You stole my life, he screamed. Neighbors watched from behind curtains. I called the police. The officer who arrived recognized him immediately. He'd been at my freedom party. David tried to explain. It didn't matter. As he was led away, he looked back at me. For the first time, he wasn't angry. He was empty. That night, I made a decision. Closure isn't given. It's enforced. I met David in the jail visiting room the next morning. The walls were gray. The chairs were bolted to the floor. Everything about the place said end of the road. He looked smaller than I remembered. Not broken. Just emptied out. I can make this stop, I said calmly. But only once. He leaned forward like hope still lived somewhere inside him. I'll drop the harassment charges, I continued. No court. No more time inside. But you leave this state and never come back. He didn't argue. He didn't ask questions. He just nodded. I slid a bus ticket across the table. One way. The coldest city I could find. His hands shook as he picked it up. I don't have a choice, he whispered. You did, I said. You used it already. When I stood to leave, he didn't follow. Some goodbyes don't need words. Life got quiet after David left the state. Not empty. Quiet in a clean way. I was seen one afternoon walking downtown with a man named Aaron. He was an architect. Calm. Steady. The kind of men who listened without waiting to talk. We moved slowly. No rushing. No pretending. One night over dinner, he asked where I wanted to travel next. Hawaii, I said without thinking. He raised an eyebrow, then smiled. Any bad memories? Yes, I said. But they don't own the place. Months later, we booked the trip. Not to escape anything. To choose something. For the first time, I wasn't proving I was strong. I was just being honest. We planned a future built on truth, not performance. That felt like the real win. Kiki tried to sue me for emotional distress. My lawyer laughed. The same lawyer from the beginning. The one who knew how this story really started.
10 minutes.
That's all it took. The case collapsed under evidence.
Videos.
Messages.
Timelines.
The judge dismissed it cleanly. Kiki was ordered to pay my legal fees.
She didn't call again.
I didn't feel proud. I felt finished. Some people confuse consequence with cruelty. They aren't the same. I didn't ruin her life. I stepped out of a lie and let gravity do the rest. By then, my focus had shifted forward. Revenge had done its job. It cleared the ground. I started a foundation that year. It helped women who lost everything in divorces built on lies. Legal help. Housing support.
Job training. The stories poured in. Different names.
Same pain. I listened. I believed them. That mattered more than money. 6 months later, I was nominated for Woman of the Year. Standing on that stage felt unreal. I wasn't there because of revenge. I was there because I survived honestly. Applause filled the room. I thought about the woman I had been in the kitchen, watching a suitcase close. She didn't know this version of herself yet. But she was already becoming her. I returned to the Grand Wailea one last time. I stood near the check-in desk where everything had cracked open. The floor gleamed. The air smelled the same. I smiled. Across the pool, among clean tiles under the sun. For a second, my heart jumped. It wasn't David. Still, I noticed a small sign taped near the service door. Help wanted. I turned away without regret. Memories don't hurt when they lose their power. They just remind you how far you walked. As I handed over my key, the clerk thanked me for staying. I thanked myself for leaving when it mattered most. David wanted a client. He got a lesson. He wanted sun. He got burned. He thought I was the one staying home. But I was the one who owned the house, the firm, and the future. I didn't win by destroying him. I won by refusing to disappear. Some people mistake kindness for weakness. They only learn the truth when it's too late. As my plane lifted from the island, I looked down once more. Then I smiled. Aloha, David, I whispered. Hope the laundry room has a nice view. Subscribe for more revenge stories.